Hello, guys. Welcome back. My name is Timmy Trent. I'm your link to the fire within and to God. All right, guys. You got power. You can change anything you want in your life at any time. Now, a lot of people want to change things with it fast, right? Either you're poor, you want to become a millionaire, you kind of have money, a lot of money, right? But everything takes time, guys. Everything takes time. Okay. There's certain things that don't take time, don't last long, right? Everything. With trading, is like in the stock market, it takes time. Rich people become rich over time, not just like you hit the lottery. If you deal with money and stuff like that, you don't understand. You got power to learn, right? If you don't learn, what happened? You just wandering around, and you get into believing other people's stuff. Like everything was made up to steal your money and energy, right? If you if you don't want if you don't think that's true, then that's on you, right? Because you got free will, you got power. So you got to analyze that, right? You got willing to learn. If you don't willing to learn, then you're stuck with what you know. And when you're stuck with what you know, if you don't know a lot, you're stuck. Then it's hard to to do things to make your life better, right? Because you're stuck. So if you don't want to get stuck, then um, use your power properly. Follow God, Jesus Christ, and follow Ten Commandments. Everything else making by human. We came up idol. I can come up an idol. I can say, have you followed my idol, right? And I can tell say certain things to make you follow 'em, but I don't. I gotta go with your God, Jesus Christ, and Ten Commandments. That's what we do. You know, we give you power. I mean, God, Jesus Christ, you know, give you power and give you choice. We're not stopping you. We're not telling you what to do. We're just advising you. This is the way. You don't take it, then you suffer. That's all it is. If you don't follow God law, then you suffer by man law. There's no if but nothing, right? You live in this society with people believer and non-believer, right? If you're not believing God, then you're subject to believer that make the law because they need you to believe in something, right? So you don't believe in God. So what happened? You got to believe in something if you want to live with the believer, right? There's 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 no fine line. There's no if, no nothing, right? Because if you gotta believe, you gotta live under some kind of law, right? Because unless you run out like an animal and kill each other and do bad things to each other, right? You gotta live under the law, right? If you don't want to live under the law, then you want to fight, then you be just like the rest of the the history, the people in history, they want to fight and conquer, right? Are we intelligent enough into this point in time in our life where we don't need to fight, but we need to work together? We don't need to conquer nothing. It's the universe. There's a lot of resource for us, right? The reason we fight is because for resource, believe. You know what I'm saying? That you got to come up with one thing and one belief that you can work all together. You know what I'm saying? Same thing. Water. Everybody have to use water, right? Do you see that you fight over like things, the pleasure thing. You fight over the feeling, what you feel, right? So another thing, rich people fight over resources because how they make the money, right? Because you know, how to manage like water, how to manage oil, all these things are abundant. Abundant. If they look for it, they create it, they build it. It's abundant. You got a universe, right? But they are short mind thinker, right? They're short mind thinker. They think that they need to get all the money. They need to you know uh, produce these things and limit the people from prosper or the bill, right? They came out with all these laws, taxes to take your money away where you can't build because you build like you gotta buy products, all kind of stuff to build, right? That way you have your money, they tax you, right? And another thing is that they regulate you because they don't want you to come with product, better product than what they have. You know what I'm saying? Instead, they looking out for you and and help you with your product. They're trying to stop that process from doing it, right? And they actually they stop. The end of the day, they stop themselves, right? They're trying to stop somebody come with a new invention. They are stopping themselves. Yeah, and they're not creative, right? So any company that do that eventually gonna fall, eventually, right? But company that help build and help humanity will prosper. That's the way it works, right? If Jesus come down here, he could be like, okay, I'm the devil, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to control everything, do all that, right? But because he believed in God, he chose God, and he is God because the way he preached, the way he decipher things, right? It's godlike. So that's why it's hard for me to believe in him at the beginning because I thought he's just a man, a teacher, right? Like myself, a teacher. I show people God way, right? But he took a stand with conviction. He died for our sin. Not a lot of people do that, right? Not a lot of people can do and say things like that and stick with a conviction, right? For God, right? He's the only one, right? Now you can do everything. You can take a Ten Commandments and you say no. Oh, that's the devil stuff. See, people can twist things around, right? That or this guy. So if you struggle, know this, that you disobey God and you have been fallen human. And fallen human like everybody does, right? Everybody does. You're born to this universe, especially now that you're born to this earth, right? You fall on people that are around you. And a lot of times people around you messed up, even though they say they believe in God. They messed up. Look at their life, right? They have no conviction to God, right? At the end of the day, they go with their feeling, their emotion, their empathy, and that's where they're lost, right? So you got to get back to the main focus, back to focus, back to God. He created everything. Think about it. Just one sentence. He created everything. Now, if you're afraid and stuff like that, how can you afraid of what God created? See, believer, they're always afraid of what God created, right? Instead of adapting it, instead of learn about it, and and take action into that, and use your power properly. Then you have these things draw to you, just like a flower draw a bee, right? So, but you don't want to go out there and be mean, upset, crazy stuff, Then what you do? All you do is like magnify yourself. That's everything we do in our life is we're gonna magnify that stuff, right? So if you struggle, just think to yourself, am I really believing God? Am I really doing the thing that God wants me to do? Now think about that. Are you believing? Are you do a thing where you learn from your family? Sometimes your family messed up. You learn from your friend. Your friend messed up. You learn from people around society. They're all messed up. Just think about this. A lot of people work for a tax collection agency, right? Like just for collecting tax, right? They work for an entity that one day will tax their ass too, right? They don't understand it. But right now, at this time, they're getting paid with the money, so it doesn't matter to them, right? They don't understand the consequence that they're working for an entity that is going to take their house, their money, all kind of stuff like that too, if they don't pay taxes. They're working for them because they're getting paid now. It's okay for them. But once they don't work for the company no more, what happens? The company can come after you. So they're working for the enemy. Build the enemy up, and one day the enemy take them. Isn't that crazy? Right, guys. God from Jesus.